Hi again, Dwight Wilson, Armageddon. Now we're starting chapter 8, which is entitled From Sinful Alliance to Christian Realism. Starts with two quotes. Dan Gilbert from Will Russia Fight America, 1948. The Red leadership is acting upon the assumption that it can never get into final position to launch the assault on Palestine until American opposition is neutralized. The answer to the question, will Russia fight America, is yes. D.P. Holloway from the Pentecostal Evangel, 1949. That we are nearing the great battle of Armageddon, there can be very little doubt. To which Wilson says, Russia moved rapidly during the 1940s through various different relationships on the international scene, from German ally to British and American ally to Cold War antagonist. And the premillenarian managed appropriate adjustments at every turn. Russia's invasion and occupation of Poland was called by Louis S. Bauman in the Sunday School Times part of a prophetic battle against God, even though at the same time he said it was God's will to punish Poland for her anti-Semitism. At this point, while Russia was overrunning small countries, of which premillenarians knew little or nothing, the response to Russia tended to be deterministic. The Evangel magazine coolly observed, God is allowing Russia to expand and gain many people in fulfillment of Ezekiel 38. Such was not to be the case, however, in the post-war era, as the United States felt threatened by Russia, and premillenarians envisioned the United States fighting hand in hand with God, resisting the great forces of evil. Instead of allowing God to fight his own battles, it was deemed necessary to assist him in the great moral fight against evil, even though the outcome was predetermined. Russia's Baltic and Polish expansion brought renewed assertions from Arno Gaebelein's Our Hope magazine of her identification with Gog, Prince of Rosh, again based on Ezekiel 38. By the way, that is a very contested interpretation of the original Hebrew word there. Louis S. Bauman in the Sunday School Times identified Russia as the foremost of Israel's latter-day enemies. But evidently identifying Mussolini as the Antichrist and the current crisis as the end, Bauman believed that Mussolini would eventually stop Russia. In the early stages of the war, the Nazi-Soviet Pact continued to be a major subject for discussion, as most premillenarians saw at least the foreshadowing, if not the final realization, of the great Northern Confederation of Gog and Gomer in Ezekiel 38. Both the Evangel and the Sunday School Times foresaw an even closer alliance of Russia and Germany in the future. Bauman, however, confidently predicted that Hitler would not rule the world, nor would Stalin, because that task was prophetically reserved for the beast or Antichrist. Although it was difficult to see any basis for permanency in this alliance of mutual cynicism, the Evangel discovered the common denominator in their joint anti-Semitism. The King's Business magazine carried an article in which John Hess McComb, pastor of New York's Broadway Presbyterian Church, warned of the two nations' imminent attack on Palestine. Quote, the attack is all too probable to be ignored any longer as a possibility, unquote. He was quite willing, though, to passively accept this impending disaster. We are convinced that battling for democracy will not save the situation. Our duty, as Christians, is clear. We are to snatch from the wreck of this age those for whom Christ died. Wilson goes on, by October of 1940, 8 months before Hitler attacked Russia, the Evangel was speaking of rumors of war in Eastern Europe, saying that, quote, many Bible students look for a conflict in which Russia will be victorious over Germany, but adding that whether their interpretation was correct or not, it would all work out according to God's prearranged program. 2 months later, it was stated that the prediction of Scripture seemed to be that Russian domination would reach the Rhine. Although it did not work out as he expected, Dr. Harry Rimmer's 1940 book, The Coming War and the Rise of Russia, made some uncanny predictions. Rimmer identified Gomer as the Balkans rather than Germany and declared, quote, "The final peace in the present conflict will see Russia as the head of a Balkan alliance, in which case the beginning of the League Ezekiel forecasts will be visible," unquote. He did not foresee Hitler's attack on Russia, but the formation of the Warsaw Pact in 1955 corresponded to his prognosis. Our Hope magazine presented a totally different analysis. Palestine would be invaded after the current war by the King of the North. This was to be Assyria, not Gog, a mistake made by many interpreters. Those who had preached that the Nazi-Soviet Pact was the Great Northern Confederacy were dumbfounded by the German attack on Russia in June 1941. The absence of comment about it seemed to be just one big awkward silence, like a little child caught in a lie. The Evangel did manage one meek statement about those whose prophetic system had been smashed by the new twist of events. Quote, "There are some prophets who are suffering no casualties. They are inspired writers of Bible prophecy. Their words shall be fulfilled. We may err when we forecast just how and when they will be fulfilled, but in God's own time, the entire prophetic plan shall be complete." Much more to come on From Sinful Alliance to Christian Realism. I'll put in a link to what Nelson Barber and Charles Taze Russell had to say about Russia, Gog, Israel, Jerusalem, etc., and the end of the Gentile times, which of course would bring all this to a culmination, they thought, around 1914. See you next time.